Hi guys, welcome to another video. This time I'm going to go for a walk with my Leica and this Nokton 50mm f1.1 lens. Of course, most of us who have lusted after a Leica for many years and finally got one also lusted after Leica lenses. But you know, I'm not the kind of person who has a money tree in the backyard, so I'm not really flush enough to afford Leica lenses. And I tend to go for Zeiss lenses or Voigtlander lenses. And this one is a Voigtlander lens, and it's also very nice. It's sort of comparable to the original Noctilux, the f1.01. This Nokton has 1.1, not 1.0, but it's still a very wide aperture, and it makes this interesting kind of swirly bokeh. I quite like it. Most people find it a little bit busy, but if you like that sort of style, you can definitely get some interesting pictures with it. It's probably not as sharp as the new Noctilux lenses, but it's also significantly less expensive. It's still an expensive lens, comparatively speaking, but it's not quite as expensive as the Noctilux. So this Nokton is sort of a budget Noctilux, still not a budget lens, but it is much cheaper. And I have taken this lens out many times. I've shot more than 100 rolls with it. It's one of my typical lenses that I always use. And I actually don't even have another 50mm lens that is specifically meant for Leica. Sometimes I use lenses that were meant for my old Zorki, but that's rare, and that's not really the kind of modern lens that I kind of like on my Leica. The way I usually use it is with ISO 100 film. I have Delta 100 loaded into my Leica this time. I enjoy shooting it that way because then I don't necessarily have to use ND filters. I sometimes use those as well, but usually not very often. And I don't go out of my way to always shoot wide open because this lens isn't super sharp wide open. I kind of think the sweet spot is at f1.4 with this lens, and I often use it more stop down. It really just depends on the subject matter. And if you stop it down, it actually becomes super sharp, and then it just looks like a very modern 50mm, which is nice. You get the best of both worlds, the swirly bokeh, but also the modern clean look of modern lenses. I kinda like it. It's so big for a lens that is meant to be on a Leica. Normally Leica lenses are quite small, and this one is just massive. I do like to shoot lenses with wide aperture, so I also have another Nokton, the 35mm 1.2, some older version. I think there's a new one out by now, but I do like these wider lenses, and they're quite big. And interestingly, it works better with the GoPro on top, because then it doesn't do this thing. It sort of balances it a bit better, but yeah, it's quite front heavy with this. I'm used to it by now, carrying heavy lenses like this, because I've shot so many rolls with it already. I know this lens very well. Anyway, I'm gonna go now, and I'll see what I find on my walk. I was actually surprised that I finished it, because I didn't really think I would find much. I already rewound, but I haven't taken it out yet. So let's do that real quick. Here. I walked around the hospital around here, and there were some gardens where I saw some strange things. So I just followed my usual instincts of, oh, I see something interesting, I photograph it, I walk along from there. I bet I did some trespassing in some ways at some point, which is always a fun way to explore. And then I found myself at the roundabout, the big roads that go along here, and they're very hard to cross. And there's a bridge over it, and beyond the bridge there is some more green. I haven't explored in that direction yet, but I already know where it is now, and that's not half bad for the next time I go exploring around here. When I go back alley exploring, it's just urban landscapes and that sort of thing. If you're used to this area, it's not gonna look very interesting, but for people who've never seen this area, maybe it's interesting nonetheless. The process of finding little details that nobody would notice and going places where you wouldn't normally go to if you don't have a reason to be there is always interesting for me, and it's kind of a look into a life that doesn't belong to me in a way. I mean, these gardens that I found there belong to someone, and I have no idea who they belong to, and it's all very strange and a kind of glimpse into another life in a way. And that's the kind of thing that I enjoy while I'm exploring in this way. It's not the same thing as when I go do street photography. It's more of an exploratory, what does it look like around here type thing. And usually that is not endless. At some point I will have explored every little bit of a town. I used to live in San Sebastian before, and there I pretty much walked every street there is in town, and I think I've thoroughly photographed the entire place and the people 3 times over. So at some point it just became boring. But this place is still new to me, and I will explore it in this way for a while, and I will take you along. It's not going to be extremely spectacular or anything, but every now and then I might find some interesting pictures that I like, and that's already worth the process. So this is my plan for the next few months, to explore like this and take you along with me on these kind of picture hunts that are really just about the meditative process of taking pictures and not so much about the outcome. So we're just gonna go for some photo walks and see what we can find, and that's gonna be quite nice. And I can also show off some of the new music that I've written to go with the footage. If you want to know more about the Nocton, I mean, this isn't really a review of the Nocton or anything, but I shot around 130 or probably more pictures with it by now, and I really like the look it gives. It has a way of turning places that seem familiar into something unfamiliar, and that's always welcome in a place that you have photographed for a long time, and I quite like it for that alone. It's a nice lens for video too, but of course it's a rather long lens if you're on a crop factor camera, and I'm shooting on a Canon EOS M, so that can be a bit of a problem. It can be quite challenging if you're in one of the crop modes of Magic Lantern, because then it crops in even more, and the native crop of the sensor of the EOS M is already 1.6. So that's going to be a very long lens in the end. And keeping that steady is not that easy, but if you use things like gyro flow and a data logger like the GoPro, it's actually doable. It's a bit heavy for a lens that goes on the Leica, but you get used to it fairly quickly. Also, if you're already used to DSLRs, it's kind of that type of lens in a way. I use a focus magnifier for the viewfinder when I use the Nocton, because my eyesight is not too great and it helps me to get the focus just right. It kind of turns it into the same field of view that I have with the 35mm frame lines, and that's very useful. I had a magnifier from a different manufacturer before, which wasn't too great. It had this diopter adjustment that always changed itself, and it got really annoying. In the end, I bought the original at a very reduced price on eBay, and that was a very good purchase. I don't really use the other one anymore because of this, and I quite like this new focus magnifier a lot more. So sometimes you're just gonna go with the original and pay a bit more to have something that actually works really well. Anyway, I think the builders just returned. We have builders in the house at the moment because we had this little disaster happen with our bathroom renovations. When we took out the floor, we realized that the beams were completely rotten and we had to replace that, and it's all taken quite a bit longer than expected. And I'm kind of filming around that right now, and it's probably gonna get noisy in a moment. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, then please leave a like and subscribe if you haven't done so already. It really helps out my channel, so I would really appreciate it. You can also support my channel on Ko-fi or buy my music on Bandcamp, and this really helps me out to keep these videos coming because film has gotten quite expensive, and yeah, we also have this disaster zone of a house to keep running, and we have a mortgage now, so any support helps. Yeah, that's kind of how things are at the moment, and why I sometimes disappear for a while, because, you know, unexpected things happen in life. Will this construction noise ever end? Probably not. I guess I'm gonna sign off now, because you probably don't want to hear my construction noise. I don't want to hear it, so probably you don't want to hear it either. Anyway, I hope I see you soon for another video. So any support helps to keep